there, BookTube, welcome back to my channel. You won't believe me if I tell you that I'm not crazy. So I'm not going to try to convince you that I'm not crazy, but here's the crazy thing. Next week is BooktubeAthon. This week is a 7 in 7 readathon. So to prepare for the BooktubeAthon, where I'm going to attempt to read 7 books in 7 days, I'm going to also do the 7 in 7 readathon, which the challenge is to read 7 books in 7 days. So I'm going to attempt to read 14 books in 14 days. Yeah, I know it's crazy, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. I just woke up this morning and I saw that the 7 in 7 readathon had begun. And I didn't plan to do it, but I had a book to review and I read it in a day. So I said, well, if I could do it today, then maybe I could do it for the rest of the week. So this is the first book that I'm reading for the 7 in 7 readathon. This is Trial on Mount Koya by Susan Spann. Like I said, I already read it. It is now the evening of Monday, July 23rd. And so I've read 1 of the 7 books. So here are the other 6 books. Well, I'm going to first tell you about the challenges for the 7 in 7 readathon. And then I'll tell you which books I'm reading in order to meet those challenges. So the 7 in 7 readathon starts today, July 23rd, and it goes on till July 29th. So it's July 23rd to July 29th. The challenges are, number 1, read 7 things, and they can be anything. They don't have to be books, but I'm not just going to pull out random magazines or random poetry books that aren't already on my radar to read, that aren't already on my TBR shelf or on my TBR list or in my virtual TBR thoughts. So I'm just going to try to read 7 books. Maybe 7 short books, 7 books that are books that I think I can kind of breeze through, but 7 books nonetheless. So my first challenge is to read 7 books. Second challenge is to read a book that has yellow on the cover or on the spine. So technically a book about summer. And I don't know if this is yellow. It looks yellow, but it also looks lime green. This is Perks of Being a Wallflower, which flowers, summer, because flowers bloom in the summer. I don't know. But this is about high school, so maybe not that one. But I am reading this one. This is a book that I started this afternoon. This is John Banville's The Sea. And if you're not very specific, this looks like yellow. And it is about the sea, which is an outdoor thing. So we're going to count this as being summery because you technically go to the beach and to the sea during the summer. So this is my book for yellow on the cover and or spine, no, yellow on the cover or a book about summer. Challenge number 3 is to read something that's outside of your norm or outside of your comfort zone. I don't read a lot of books that are set in high school, so I'm going to consider this as a book that is outside of my norm. It is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, and I know it's set in a high school. I don't know if it's actually a young adult book, but it is pretty short. It's only 211 pages, and I said last year, I think I might have chosen this for Readathon last year and didn't get to it, so we're going to try to read it this time as the book that's outside of my comfort zone because it's been on my TBR for maybe 2 years. Physically on my TBR shelf and I haven't read it, so I'm gonna say this is outside of my usual genre because I haven't even had the urge to pick it up even though it's so short. Challenge number 4 is to read a book that starts with your first initial. And last month this chef committed suicide and I own a couple of his books and I've wanted to read them for a long time, and this just seems like an appropriate time to revisit the story of Anthony Bourdain. This is the book that launched him into the public eye, Kitchen Confidential, where he went behind the scenes and talked about his experience becoming a trained chef and what it's like living in the restaurant world. And I've skimmed through this book, but I don't think I've ever read it in its entirety. So the title starts with K and my name is Karen. So this book starts with my first initial. Challenge number 5 is to read a book that takes place mostly outside, and for that I'm choosing this Man Booker prize-winning book that's on my TBR. I got this one from the library and it's such a beat-up copy. I really just want to read it and get it back to the library ASAP. So it would be good to read this at the end of the month as well, so it can be my end of the month wrap-up and I can make videos about it and bring it back to the library, and maybe if I like it enough, buy my own copy. This is Offshore by Penelope Fitzgerald, and I don't know too much about the book synopsis, except that I think it has something to do with water and because the cover looks like some boats and water, and there's an anchor here. So I'm assuming that this is set outside for the most part. So this is my choice for a book that's set mostly outside. And maybe I'll read it when I'm outside as well, because that's also one of the things that the Readathon prompt urges you to do. Challenge number 6 is to read a book and make up a drink or a food that is inspired by it. And I've had this really weird titled book on my TBR shelf for about a year. Last year I was on this Seth Godin reading binge, and I bought a few of his books. I didn't read them all. And this is one that has been on my TBR shelf ever since. It is Meatball Sunday, Is Your Marketing Out of Sync? And I didn't read it yet, but I think the premise of the book is about how even though things are awesome by themselves, they're not always awesome together. And you have to know what two things are compatible before you start just putting random things and expecting them to have a really good marriage. So maybe when I read this book, I'll make a meatball sundae. Probably will not put meat and ice cream together, but maybe I'll make a meatball sundae and share it with you in my vlog. And challenge number 7 is to read something that takes place in your home, and you can interpret that as your country or your town, or to read a book by an author who is from your home, whether your country or your town. And I have several books on my shelf that are written by New York authors and are set in New York, but I wanted to push myself and read something that is written by someone who's from my home in Jamaica. And Glacida Honeygan is an author from my country and also from my community, and she's a close friend of my mother's. They work together. And this is a copy of a book that she self-published, and my mom sent me this copy I think last year, and I don't think I read this one. She actually sent me 2 of her books, and I didn't read this one yet. And this one is entitled Stop Blaming Me for My Mother's Sins by Glacida Honeygan. And it's a pretty short book. It's only about 150 pages, and so funny. There's a glossary in the back that explains all these Jamaican terms, which I already know, so I don't need the glossaries. So that's 2 pages that I don't have to read. So those are the 7 books that potentially meet the reading challenges for the hashtag 7in7 Readathon that goes from July 23rd to July 29th. I also have 3 other books that I could potentially choose from if they meet any of the challenges, or if I get stuck during the week and want to read something that's maybe a little bit shorter and want to stick something in there. And I have James Joyce's Dubliners. This is only about 150 pages. I've owned this book for years. I think I picked it up when I was in college. Sometimes you'd walk by these departments and they'd have these books on a table that says take one, they're free, and I'd take them, and I wouldn't have time to read them because I was in college. But I never got around to reading James Joyce's Dubliners, and maybe this week is the week to do that. I also have another Seth Godin book. This one is All Marketers Are Liars, crossed out to say All Marketers Tell Stories. This is another short book. This is only a little over 200 pages, but these books are so small. Like, compare the size of these 2 books. And so even though it's kind of thick, well, it is also pretty dense. There aren't a lot of graphs. Like, there are a few graphs in here, but not that many. And the graphs are pretty small, so it is quite a bit of reading, but it's such a small book that 220 of these pages will probably speed by really fast. I also have another book that I started when I was doing my Try a Chapter tag. This was The Elected Member by Bernice Rubens, and this is only a little over 200 pages, and although it is a Man Booker prize-winning book, which means that the writing is probably symbolic and a little bit dense, I feel like this is going to be maybe a moderately easy read. So I have these to choose from, these 3, but these 7 constitute the bulk of my hashtag 7in7 Readathon TBR. And like I said, 1 down, 6 to go. So leave me a comment down below if you're also doing the hashtag 7in7 Readathon as well as the BooktubeAthon. Let me know that I'm not the only person who's trying this stuff. And if you just want to tell me I'm crazy, that's okay. Go ahead, tell me that in the comments. I've heard it before, don't worry, it's fine. I've got pretty thick skin. Those kinds of comments, they just roll off like water off a duck's back. Thanks for watching this video. Leave me a comment down below. If you're also doing the readathon with whichever readathon and you've made a TBR video, go ahead and link it down in the comments. Even if it comes up as spam, I'll unmark it as spam so I can watch your video. So we'll talk in the comments, and until next time, until the next book tomorrow, happy reading, guys. I'm also going to be vlogging, so look out for my vlog this week and next week, potentially, of the 14 books that I'm going to be reading in 14 days. See you later.